Welcome to Kerr 9000's Horror House.
I realised that somehow I've managed to review the entire Nightmare on Elm Street set of films, at least the originals. I've even talked about the TV show Freddy's Nightmares, and yet I've never reviewed the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. So here we go. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a 1984 American supernatural slasher film written and directed by Wes Craven and produced by Robert Shaye. Of course, it's the first instalment in the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. It stars Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, and of course Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. It also has Johnny Depp in it in his film debut, which is quite interesting. I always think it's cool to see where massive actors have started out, and it's surprising that quite a few people who've gone on to be very influential started out in horror films. Obviously Johnny Depp here in Nightmare on Elm Street, Jennifer Aniston in the original Leprechaun film. It's just a cool little thing like that, I've reviewed the Critters films, and Critters 3 was the first appearance of Leonardo DiCaprio as a very young boy. So when you're watching a horror film and you see someone in it relatively new, you never know when they might be a future star of tomorrow. It's just something worth keeping in mind. Okay, back to A Nightmare on Elm Street. The film was made on an estimated budget of $1.8 million and was released in 1984 on November the 9th, and it grossed $57 million worldwide, so it was a massive success. Not only did it make the money, it was met with rave critical reviews, and it's basically gone on to be considered one of the greatest horror films ever made. Not only spawning sequels, a television series, a crossover movie, a remake, comic books, toys, posters, appearances in comedy shows. Basically, this launched the character of Freddy Krueger to the point of being a cultural icon. The basis of the film was inspired by several newspaper articles which were printed in the Los Angeles Times in the 70s about refugees who, after fleeing to the United States, suffered disturbing nightmares and refused to sleep, and some of these men died in their sleep soon afterwards. Medical authorities called this phenomenon the Asian Death Syndrome. It tended to affect men between 19 and 57 and was believed to be a sudden unexplained death syndrome. And it was these articles which sort of acted as a springboard for Craven. The character Freddy Krueger is apparently drawn from Craven's early life as well. One night, a young Craven saw an elderly man walking on the path outside the window of his home, and the man stopped to glance at a startled Craven and then walked off, and this served as the inspiration for Krueger. As everybody knows, Krueger was initially intended to be a child molester, but Craven eventually characterised him as a child murderer because at the point this film was due to come out, there had been a big spate of highly publicised child molestation cases, and he basically didn't want to cash in on something horrible that was happening in the real world. Now, I think pretty much everyone who likes horror films has seen this film, so I don't want to harp on and on about every minute detail, and if you haven't seen it, I certainly don't want to spoil it, because I would firmly go on paper of saying this is one of the top 10 horror films of all time. All I can say is that Robert Englund is amazing in the role. He brings such life to the character, and yes, the sequels to this film are okay, I enjoy them, I like them, but this film itself stands alone as a fantastic piece of horror cinema that just has to be seen. There's amazing direction, amazing tricks. It is just a masterpiece in every way. Visual, musical, there's not a wrong step as far as I'm concerned. And this for me basically set me on the map of looking at who Wes Craven was, what films he'd made, and I've got to say, fantastic guy, and I wish he was still around. Okay, that's Kerr 9000 signing off, saying, sweet dreams, boys and ghouls.